If you're thinking about selling your house, you have to hear this because avoiding what I'm about to tell you can literally save you tens of thousands of dollars. The reality is that sellers often enter the process highly emotional, while buyers enter the market strategically and without emotion, armed with data and ready to move on to the next house if they don't get what they want. Today, I'm going to give you 5 of the biggest traps that home sellers fall into and exactly why you must avoid them at all costs if you want to protect your home's equity. Hi, I'm Steve Moon, your San Jose Realtor. Welcome to my channel where we talk about real estate and interesting things and stories about the Bay Area. Let's start with the first massive trap, which is pricing your home based on your ego and intentionally overpricing it to leave room for negotiations. And I see this constantly where a seller will find a unicorn price from 2 to 3 years ago and insist that their home is just like it, even if it's in a different neighborhood or lacks the same upgrades. They base their price on their ego, and then they tack on a little extra because they think they need to leave room for the buyer to negotiate that down. Because I need you to understand that saying that you want to leave room for negotiation is just a code word for saying that your home is overpriced. And you must avoid this because the worst thing that you can possibly do in any real estate market is overpricing your home. Because when you do this, you completely lose your leverage. You create total silence. The phone stops ringing, the offers don't come in, and your open houses are empty. Then your house just sits on the market for months and buyers start wondering what's wrong with the house or if the sellers are really desperate. When you're in this position, you're incredibly weak in negotiations. What inevitably happens is that the seller starts to panic and start chasing the market down, making price cut after price cut. And buyers are sharps. They'll sense blood in the water and they'll see your desperation and they will eat you alive. So instead of getting a good price, buyers will often offer you significantly less, knowing that you're desperate. And the longer the home stays on the market, the less that they can pay. So you have to avoid this trap by getting the true market value based on the most recent sales data and pricing it accurately from day one and completely refusing to play that what if pricing game. Because there are just simply too many homes on the market right now to be playing these types of games. The second massive mistake to avoid is having poor home presentation. You have to understand that the buyers out there are not going to pay a premium for your home's potential, but they are absolutely willing to pay a premium for excellent condition homes. Buyers will pay A-rated prices for A-rated homes. If your house isn't clean, if it isn't well lit, well prepared, and well maintained, buyers are going to use that against you. And if you refuse to declutter and clean up, buyers will walk through, have a bad experience, and demand a significantly lower price. And you must avoid this because you're literally handing the buyer a reason to take advantage of you. Strategic preparation is what actually matters, not just throwing a sign in the yard and hoping for the best. You have to do the work up front. If your house isn't prepped well, buyers will overestimate the cost of fixing up a messy home or an outdated home, and then they will heavily penalize you on the offer price. Home buyers today look at homes like dating apps. If the overall vibe is not a good one, they will simply swipe on to the next home because they have more options today than they had in many years. This brings me to the third major issue that you absolutely must avoid, and that is mishandling of the home inspection process. In any real estate deal, there are basically 3 types of negotiations: the initial price, the appraisal, and the repair request after the home inspection. And that third negotiation is where the sellers get completely taken advantage of. Buyers, often guided by inexperienced buyer's agents, will hand over a massive inspection list and then demand that everything on that be fixed. And you have to avoid giving into this because buyers will start asking for $25,000 or $40,000 credit for things that are completely unreasonable. They might ask for a brand new roof when the current roof is in good condition but may need some damaged shingles to be replaced, or that they may demand a massive credit to replace several windows when All that may be required is for those damaged balancers to be replaced for those windows. The reason you must avoid caving into these types of demand is that desperate sellers end up giving away tens of thousands of dollars of their hard-earned equity just to keep the deal together. And the cost-effective way to avoid this type of huge demand is to do pre-inspections before you put your home on the market. That way, you can fix what needs fixing, sell the house as is, and offer zero credits. Put yourself in a much stronger position where you aren't leaving any money on the table. Anticipate ahead and cut off all of the potential negotiation points. This is the strategic negotiations. Take the time, prepare in advance, and anticipate and avoid all of these credit traps. The fourth crucial thing to avoid is negotiating emotionally. And this happens when sellers tie the value of their home to their personal situations or their memories. And you might think to yourself that you raised your kids here and it's hard for you to leave, so the buyer needs to pay a premium for your emotional inconvenience. Or you might think that you need to net a specific amount of money so that you can afford your next house in Nevada or Arizona. But I'm telling you right now, you must avoid bringing these emotions to the negotiating table because those personal details have absolutely nothing to do with the true market value of your home. You have to take your emotions and your memories and put them entirely aside and put on your business hat. Why? Because your buyers are looking at your home exactly like a spreadsheet, especially here in Silicon Valley, which is overrepresented by buyers with engineering backgrounds. They are looking at inputs and outputs and evaluating the location, the maintenance, the roof, the HVAC system, and the interior design to determine the true value. They simply don't care about your emotional connection to the property or how much money you personally need for your next purchase. This is a business transaction involving hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of dollars. You must avoid letting the buyer sense any emotional attachment or stress because if they know you're emotional, they know you are weak and they will use that leverage against you. And finally, the fifth huge trap to avoid is blindly accepting the highest priced offer. Homeowners go crazy over the top line price and focus on nothing else. But you have to avoid this because the highest price doesn't necessarily always mean the most money in your pocket. And it certainly doesn't mean that it's the best deal. You have to look at all of the terms of the contract to see what you are actually going to be walking away with. Sometimes the highest offer comes with terrible terms, like asking you to pay for 5% commission to the buyer's agent or demanding $30,000 in seller credit. You also have to look closely at the closing timelines and the risks that are involved. In today's world, a shorter escrow period is always better than a longer one. 30 days should be the maximum, maybe 45 days if there's some specific circumstance that you don't fully understand yet. But anything beyond leaving way too much time for things to go wrong during a long escrow period. Always pick the offer that is most profitable and most secure to you, the seller, and don't get caught up in the ego of the highest price. Non-contingent offers are typically the best and puts the sellers in a better position from a negotiating point of view. Be aware that there are unscrupulous buyers out there who will intentionally offer significantly more money than market price with a contingency in place to chase away any and all competition if your home is in a high demand area. And once in contract, they will use that contingency to renegotiate a much lower price or simply to walk away from the deal, forcing you to put the home back on the market. And this is why it is important to cut off any and all potential negotiation points in advance. Look, selling a home is a big financial decision, and stress or emotion creates an opportunity to be taken advantage of, which feels gross and corrupt in some cases. So don't become a victim and take measures to avoid putting yourself into that type of a situation. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found these points to be useful. And if so, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. And let me know in the comments if you know of anyone who has fallen victim to any of these types of traps. And I'll see you in the next video.